All right. Hello, hello, hello. Verena Weber here. And I'm jumping on here to talk about overcoming imposter syndrome. And before we dive into the topic, let me first introduce myself and give you a little bit of reason why maybe you can learn from me. All right. So I'm Verena, and I've been working in AI and tech for more than 8 years. And most of the time, I was in tech roles like data scientist, machine learning scientist, and I spent almost 4 years as a research scientist on the Amazon Alexa team. Yeah, and like many other women in tech, I once believed that good work alone would get me ahead. But instead, I felt overlooked, unsure how to get what I wanted, and quite honestly, frustrated. I was dealing with imposter syndrome and feeling exhausted most of the time. And that set me on my own learning journey, which now I'm sharing with other women in tech. And one part of my learning journey was actually a lot of personal growth, personal development sessions at Amazon. There are women in AI chapter sessions, but also learning embodiment practices and learning to work with the body, like yoga teacher trainings, sound bath facilitator trainings, and so on. And like I said, I'm now sharing all these learnings through my brand, Women in Tech. You can sign up for my free newsletter where I write about the challenges that I faced and how I dealt with them. Or you can also connect with me through other channels like LinkedIn or Instagram. All right, enough about me. Let's jump into the topic. Yeah, and like a proper scientist, I'm gonna start this talk with a definition. So, what is imposter syndrome? And this definition is more or less rephrased, simplified by what the American Psychological Association writes. And they say that imposter syndrome is a psychological pattern where an individual doubts their skills, talents, or accomplishments and has a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud, despite clear evidence of their competence or success. Yeah, and I really hope that you've heard about this before and it's not the first time you're hearing about that syndrome. Because for me, quite honestly, it really changed the way that I could process my feelings. Because in the very beginning of my career, I didn't have any idea that like imposter syndrome is like a widely known, recognized phenomenon. And I was definitely feeling like my accomplishments or skills weren't really valuable. And then learning about imposter syndrome really gave me a whole way of understanding of how I was feeling, that I'm not alone in this, and most importantly, that there was something I could do about it. And that is also why I really find it important to talk about it. And like I said, I hope it's not the first time you hear about it. But I still hope that you can take something new away from this talk because usually imposter syndrome is something that comes and goes. And I mean, probably there's always a way, a better way, or an even, more sophisticated way of how we can deal with it. All right. Now, why is it actually important that we deal with imposter syndrome and that it doesn't go completely untreated or unrecognized? Well, imposter syndrome, obviously, probably not surprising for you, can have an impact on your career and performance. But that is actually not the only area that it impacts. It also impacts your well being and your interpersonal and social connections. So let's look at that a little bit more. Let's start with career and performance. So yeah, if you constantly feel like your achievements are not worth anything or you're kind of being scared of being a fraud, you don't have a lot of trust in your abilities and your skills. That, of course, means that you're not going to take a lot of risk. You're probably not going to take on a lot of new opportunities like applying for that senior position or going for that leadership position, which, of course, hinders your growth. Then often people with imposter syndrome downplay their achievements. And that actually was quite a big one for me. So I was always saying, oh, yeah, but that's nothing. Wasn't that hard? I didn't do it alone. And yeah, really downplayed my achievements a lot. Also, wasn't really visible with the work I did and the things that I achieved. Didn't talk much about it, didn't really give a lot of presentations. And I really hope that you already know that this is really not the way to get ahead in an organization to be lined up for that next promotion. You need to be visible, you need to talk about your work in a good way. And finally, there's perfectionism. And I think that's also really a big one for women. I definitely also saw a lot of female colleagues getting trapped in this perfectionist work ethic. And also when I talk to leaders that, lead men and women, they often also confirm this, that women often do great work, but they hardly ever spend time on promoting that work, on making that work visible. And that then leads to them being unrecognized for the great things that they do. Imposter syndrome also impacts your well being. And that's kind of obvious, if you're constantly scared of being found out, if you constantly feel like you cannot meet the expectations, that leads to a lot of anxiety and stress. Also leads to a lack of confidence, which again impacts, your well-being because you're kind of constantly feeling you're not good enough. And then often people try to compensate for that with doing more and more, working harder, working more, overextending themselves, going beyond their limits, which then eventually can lead to burnout. And then finally, there's the interpersonal and social. And again, here, impaired communication was a big one for me. So in the beginning of my career, I hardly ever shared my opinion or my thoughts. I didn't say anything unless I was 100% sure that the answer or the thing that I would say was really right. I wouldn't ask for help. I wouldn't ask questions because I was just constantly scared I would look incompetent. And that again, obviously doesn't help your growth. Imposter syndrome can then also lead to frustration and resentment, right? Because you're actually putting in a lot of work and energy into your job, but you're not really getting rewarded. You're not getting ahead because you're downplaying your achievements, you're not visible, and so on. And then you see other people getting promoted, and that can be frustrating. And finally, there's this isolation part that I already mentioned a little bit in the beginning, also from my own experience, where I didn't know that this was like a widespread or recognized phenomenon and that I wasn't the only one going through this, but it's actually, yeah. So I felt a little bit isolated in that, and then recognizing that it's something that not only I am encountering, but also other people definitely helped me deal with it and understand it also. All right, so I assume if you're watching this video, you're probably working in tech. And, we're people in tech, we like problem solving. And I assume you're already getting a little bit itchy, like, okay, we understand the problem. We know what the impact is. Now finally tell us a solution for it. And yes, we're getting there for sure. But before we do that, I would like us to take a step back and think about how we usually solve problems. And again, I'm making assumptions here, but since I assume you're also working in tech, and in tech it's normal, we solve problems with our mind, with logic, we solve them in our head, and of course also with data. And yes, there's a time and place for that. I mean, that's a good way to solve a problem. But what we often forget about is that is not the only way to solve a problem. We can use our head, we can use our mind, but and maybe that's the only way, when we're dealing with coding problems. But here we're talking about dealing with imposter syndrome. And there is a second way. So that's the good news. There's a second way that we can tackle this. And that is our body. So we can use our body to change how we feel, how we think. And I know, I'm from Germany, and I grew up, with this standard Western belief that body and mind are separate, and what we think doesn't really impact our body, and what we do with our body doesn't really impact how we think and feel. But I've come to recognize that that's actually not true. And also the good news is that, the mainstream stream of thought is changing. Also, even Western medicine is coming to recognize more and more that this view is actually not true. And instead, there is this, there's this mutual effect of body and mind. There's this interconnection of body and mind. So what we think and what we feel impacts our body, and also what we do with our body impacts how we think and feel. And we can use this connection to tackle imposter syndrome. And that's exactly what we want to do today. So we will look at the two ways, the two approaches we can take to overcome, or at least tackle, imposter syndrome. Now let's start with the mind. So again, I'm assuming that's the kind of problem solving way you're most familiar with, you're most comfortable with. So let's start with the mind. And again, working in tech, that's where we usually are. And it's pretty standard problem solving here, right? So we first identify what is holding us back from an intellectual point of view. And then again, intellectually, we try to reframe and let that go. So first step is identifying what's holding us back. And imposter syndrome is a bit of an umbrella term here that basically comes with a lot of limiting beliefs. So things like, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I can't do that, I can't learn that. Oftentimes these limiting beliefs are running very subconsciously. Oftentimes we're not even aware of them. So in the first step, what we want to do is we want to become aware of them. The limiting beliefs often result in a lack of confidence, because we think we're not good enough, we think we're not smart enough, we can't learn certain things, which means we don't really trust in our ability. Often it also comes with a very harsh inner critic that criticizes us a lot. Again, with very perfectionistic standards, which then also leads to a lot of negative self-talk. And often people even think that that is a good thing, that's something that drives them, that this harsh inner critic voice is what keeps them going. But actually there's a lot of research that shows if you adopt a more encouraging and coaching-like relationship with yourself instead of this harsh criticism, you can be much more effective and successful. And that is basically the second step, right, that we want to do. We want to reframe and let go. And what does that mean? So we want to identify our limiting beliefs, our negative thoughts, and then reframe into more compassionate and encouraging ones. So for example, if you say, oh, I can't do that, then you can say, I can't do that yet. Or I can learn it if I put my mind to it, if I really dedicate myself to it, I can learn it. And that's also what is called a growth mindset. So only because you can't do something right now doesn't mean you cannot do it at all. And this is really a powerful one, right? It's really basically just saying you can learn anything if you just put the right dedication and effort into it. And I really want this to be something actionable, so I want you to walk away with something that you can do after this talk. So I'm going to link an exercise below. So please go through this exercise, identify the limiting beliefs that you have, and then consciously reframe them into more encouraging, more coaching-like beliefs. So for example, if you say, oh, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, you can just say, I can learn anything that I want to, and basically everything is learnable. Right, the second one is a little bit maybe weird in the beginning, but it's a very effective one. And also, who says that just because we're adults working in tech, we cannot be playful anymore? So the second one is name your inner critic. So give it a name, something like, call her Isabel or whatever name you like, because that helps you to adopt a playful way of interacting with her or him when they show up. And it helps you to distance yourself from it when they show up. And what you can do is also make a list of situations where they are very active and already prepare an alternative view on it. Yeah, so if they maybe come and criticize, oh, you did this wrong again, and why are you so stupid, and why can't you just finally get this right? And you just say, okay, I'm learning it. I'm still in the process of improving and learning. Failure is a part of success. I'm getting better. I know I haven't got it right yet, but there will be a day where I'll get it right. I'll make sure next time I'll get it right. I set up this mechanism and so on, right? It doesn't have to be that lengthy. Just come up with something like an alternative view that's not that harsh. Okay, now let's move to the second part, the body. So I assume that's also the kind of approach you're less familiar with. And it's gonna be fun because we're experimenting with something new. So again, what do we want to do? We want to use the body-mind connection to shift our mindset. And there's two things that I want to talk about today. The first one is breath, and the second one is posture and body language. So let's start with breath. Breath is a very powerful tool. It's really like a direct key to our nervous system. And the nervous system is what is controlling how we feel and think. And through the breath, you can, for example, activate that part of the nervous system that is calming you down, that's relaxing you. Yeah, and one way to do that is long, deep breathing. So how does that work? So long, deep breath just means you breathe deeply into your belly, then you breathe into your chest up to the clavicle, and then you release the air out in the reverse order. So you first release it from your clavicle, then from your chest, and finally out from the belly by drawing the navel towards the spine, drawing the navel in, making yourself really empty. And then you try to make each inhale and exhale as long as you can. So it can be like a count of 5, count of 10, count of 15. And you could even make the exhale longer than the inhale if you want to calm yourself down. So that's one technique. The other technique is called box breathing. And that means you inhale, you hold, you exhale, and you hold again. And again, all for the same count. Again, could be 5 seconds, could be 10 seconds, could be 15 seconds, whatever you feel comfortable with. And yeah, I actually want you to try this out right now. So find a comfortable seat. If you can, place your feet on the floor. Make sure you're sitting upright, you're not leaning against the chair. Take care that your spine is long and straight. And then roll your shoulders up and back, place them above your hips. And let's close your eyes if you haven't, or if it's uncomfortable for you, you can also lower your gaze and look at a point on the floor in front of you. And let's take a moment to just reconnect with our breath. Yeah, usually the breath is just there. We don't pay any attention to it. We don't focus on it. What I want you to do now is like put all your attention, all your focus on your breath. Feel how it enters your body, how it fills up your lungs, how it expands your chest, and how it flows back out again. And let's take a deep inhale together through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. One more time like this. Inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. One last time. Inhale through the nose. And exhale with a sigh. And now let's inhale through the nose for 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale through the nose. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale through the nose. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale through the nose. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. And for the last round, hold. Exhale. Hold for the last time. And inhale and come back to your normal rhythm of breathing. Let the breath flow in and out. No need to control anything. Let your eyes still be closed. No need to do anything anymore. Just let it flow. And take some time to check in with yourself. If you can feel any kind of shift, maybe you're feeling a bit more centered, maybe you're feeling a bit more calm. And then when you're ready, gently open your eyes, come back, shake your arms, shake your shoulders, shake your head, come back, reactivate yourself. And that actually also brings us to the second part, posture and body language. Yeah. So maybe you've heard that in communication, really only a small percentage is about what you say, about the actual content. And that actually people pick up much more about body language, tone of voice, all these kind of things. And yeah, you communicate a lot to others with your body, but also to yourself. Yeah, so let's try this, right? If you're sitting, sit with a very round spine, let your head hang, let your shoulders come forward. And now if you look at me, right, I don't really look confident. And if you're sitting like this, you're probably also not feeling very confident. Well, I'm definitely not. It's hard for me to feel confident if I, curl up like this. But now if I do the opposite, and please do it with me, make sure that your spine is straight, your shoulders come back, your head is parallel to the floor, your chin is parallel to the floor, you're opening up the chest, you're lifting the sternum, right? You're also taking up more space. I mean, I'm sending a more confident message, and it's also much easier for me to feel confident. Right, so really try that out. Lift the sternum, bring the shoulders back, open your chest. And now that's all. Lift our arms up together, 60 degrees maybe. Let's take up some space here. If you want, you can even also stand up. Make your legs a little bit wider than hip width. Stand up, take some space, and then breathe. Yeah, so that already take up some space. That already changes how you feel, right? I definitely feel more confident. What you can also do is like, yes, do these other kind of power poses. Yeah, you can make some sound. Yes, you can jump with it. Yes, arms up. Yes. And okay, it might feel a little bit awkward if you do it for the first time, but just try it out. Be open to it. Have a little bit fun with it. And then I promise you, it will feel less awkward over time, and you will be more able to harness the benefits of it all. Yeah. All right. So again, I have some actions for you here to take away. I want you to identify a power pose or move that works for you. So anything that we've just tried, or you can also find something else. And then just hold it for 60 seconds. Yeah, and you can do that. Either do it before the next meeting where you need a little bit more confidence, or whatever it may be, presentation, talk, whatever. And I mean, if you're working from home, it's easy to do it, but even if you're in the office, just go to the bathroom and do it there. And so there's always ways to do it. And the other thing is I want you to try is to really work with the breath, right? So if you're feeling like a little bit nervous or anxious, or again, you feel like you could use a little bit more confidence, just use the breath. And the nice thing about breathing, you can just, in the office at a desk, no one will see that you're breathing in a certain rhythm, right? So you can really do it anywhere. Or even if you have had like a long, stressful day and you need some time to wind down, try this out. It's really, really powerful. And I hope you've got a glimpse of it in the exercise that we just did. All right, final note. I mean, the talk is called Overcoming Imposter Syndrome, but really I don't want you to walk away with this idea that it's something you need to get rid of. Instead, it's just something that you learn to deal with that's then no longer holding you back. But it's not gonna disappear completely. At least I think for most people it won't. And also the more you kind of step up, you climb the career ladder, you kind of do something new. Like for me, I became self-employed a year ago, stepping into new things. Then of course imposter syndrome, all these things associated with it, like limiting beliefs, lack of confidence, and so forth, they come back. But then you just get better and better at dealing with it, and you're definitely not being held back by it anymore. All right, I really hope you took away something from this. Let me know in the comments. I'm happy to hear from you. What did you take away? What did you try? What worked for you? What didn't? Please drop me a message, write a comment, and I'm happy to connect with you and see you here on my channel soon. Bye.